Intuit Dome in California, and this is Inglewood, California. A lot of folks I know from out in that area. Joshua Chauvin joining me as always. The Chauvin one, the Oracle of Odds. Are you excited for this
I'm
card?
very excited, Pat. Can we officially pat MVP slash Netflix slash Jake Paul on the back a little bit here? I mean, for your first card ever, we just talked on our previous episode a few minutes ago about how the UFC has built a monopoly and they've driven every competitor out of town or just bought them up. MVP, there's a space for another MMA promotion, and I think this is a hell of a freaking card to kick things off. I'm excited. Like seriously, I have goosebumps. I'm excited.
Well, good. I'm glad you're excited, and the team that Jake Paul has together with in partnership with Netflix could prove to be pretty interesting to say the least. I think that there's a lot of room for certainly mixed martial arts material on other channels, and Netflix and the MVP group could prove to be pretty beneficial to the sport overall. So I'm hoping they do quite well, and certainly would like to support them.
I agree, and yeah, I think you can say whatever you want about Jake Paul. I think his rap was kind of a idiot. That's kind of how he portrayed himself, whether it was on Disney Channel as a kid or YouTube or TikTok. And turns out I'm sure he was a young, dumb kid, but I think that was also kind of a character. I think Jake Paul's a lot smarter than a lot of people realize. There's a reason why he's worth like
Yeah,
half
he
a
is,
billion dollars or
100%.
something. And with the boxing matches that he did, it got people to tune in, and like the Mike Tyson fight and the Anthony Joshua cards were on Netflix. So they've already shown that people will watch. A ton of people are going to be watching this Netflix card tomorrow, Pat. I think it's great for the sport, and hats off to MVP. I feel like they really shot for the moon, and on paper, this is a fun, exciting card. Good for them. Good job, MVP.
Yeah, so let's break this card down. Let's get right to it. Let's talk about the Rousey Carano matchup. Both have been not competing for quite a long time. I think it's 2009 for Gina Carano, last time she fought, in 2016, a decade for Ronda Rousey. So a lot of unknowns here. I've watched them work out, hit and mitts, things like that at least, and both of them look fit. They look like they've gotten as prepared as they can for the matchup, so it's going to be interesting.
As not only a UFC champion, but also a UFC champion coach who trained other UFC champions, how do you look at that honestly, Pat? Is it they've been on the couch for almost 20 years, 15 years for both of them? Is this they've had chances to heal? Obviously, Rousey has taken some horrific damage from that Holly Holm, Amanda Nunez nightmare back to back fights. Do we look on the bright side and say, hey, she's had 10 years to heal? Her body is rejuvenated. She's going to look like she did when she was 25. Or is this, she hasn't fought? She's going to be lost in there. How do you
No,
honestly?
I don't. I think the instincts will be there no matter what. And Rousey, while she wasn't fighting, she was doing WWE stuff and other things, and was working out. In Carano, she's married to a world champion Muay Thai fighter and coach, so it's not like she hasn't been working out as well. Obviously, not getting in fight shape, but so at a little more advanced age, it's obviously tougher. I've felt that. I've done that. So yeah, it can be a little tougher, but so I think it's exciting nonetheless. And then moving on to. We're going to go back to the bottom of the card though, and we're going to work our way up. But I just wanted to talk about them real quick. Let's go to the bottom of the card. Brandon Jenkins up against Chris Avila. Jenkins is a guy that I've called a few of his fights. I've always liked him. He was a security guard, and I don't know. He might still be a security guard at a casino in Minnesota. I think he moved from there. I'm not 100% sure, but that's how I met him. Was calling his fights on LFA. A great guy, a banger, tough dude, and he's up against Chris Avila, who's 8-9. not a great, not a great stellar record by any means, and he's 0-2 in the UFC. What's your thoughts and breakdown on this fight?
Well, Chris Avila is close friends with Nate Diaz. So where Nate Diaz goes, he often takes Chris Avila with him. Kind of like where Pat Militech goes, he often takes Joshua Chauvin with him. I've gotten to do some fun things with Pat over the years, and Nate Diaz's thing is if you're gonna pay me, you're gonna pay my buddy Chris Avila too. He was able to get Chris Avila on, I think, both cards that he fought Conor McGregor. And Chris Avila, probably not MMA caliber, but he gets Brandon Jenkins here, who caged aggression champion. You called his fights in LFA. Brandon Jenkins' thing is he loses the fight until he does something spectacular and finishes his opponent. And that may work when you're in caged aggression. It tends to fail more often than it succeeds the higher levels that you go. And the line
Sure.
movement reflects it here, Pat. Brandon Jenkins was opened up pretty heavy for Brandon Jenkins. Minus 430 favorite, Pat. I get that Chris Avila's 8-9 and is really only on this card because he's Nate Diaz's buddy, but that's big line movement in the wrong direction. So I think the thing is if Brandon Jenkins does the usual Brandon Jenkins thing and lets his opponent outpoint him and just hopes for that home run, 15 minutes later, that home run's never come. Chris Avila may squeak this fight out and start off the card with a big underdog winning. What do you think? Am I crazy for thinking that?
Well, I don't know. The handicappers could be handicapped. I'm just, I'm just saying. But Jenkins 1-4.
No,
What's that?
it's a couple huge underdogs last week, and he is feeling himself. He's like, oh, these handicappers don't know what they're talking about. This is
No,
not
not at all.
here.
I do not want to dive into. Look, always remain humble, and I will say this: after listening to you, I will many times change my decision
Yeah,
just on some keys that you talk about. Two, no matter who anybody out there listening to you and I, you're an expert. You make your living at this, and I've looked at a lot of athletes, obviously, over the years, and broken a lot of athletes down. I would say this: take what we have, ingest it, spit out what doesn't make sense to you, and do your own research.
Fantastic.
And between the three of us, you and Josh and I, we might be able to find common ground in this. But I'm going with Jenkins in this one, even though he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He's still a tough guy. He's always been a hammer. Avila's never been finished. Can Jenkins pull out the decision? I mean, Avila and Jenkins both in terms of decisions have not fared well at all. But I give Jenkins a little bit of an edge in this one, so I'm leaning towards my friend Brandon. So, all right, so we're split on that one. Let's go up to Aileen Pereira against Jade Mason Wong, 3-2 versus 2-2. I don't. I mean, they pull numbers on this, odds obviously. I frankly have no idea how the hell they do it. They're the experts, I guess. But at 2-2 and 3-2, it's tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not that different than a lot of the female fights we see in the UFC where girls are getting in at
Because
2-0.
well, these are females too.
Yeah, they are. They are. At least
That was supposed to be a joke. It's a terrible joke. But just as female fights in the UFC, this is a female fight as well. So
What is a woman, Pat? Can we get into that real quick? Can we get your opinions on that? So if you recognize the name, the fighting style, even the facial bone structure of Aileen Pereira, that's because her brother is, I think, the #1 pound for pound fighter in MMA right now. Alex Pereira, who was just moving through weight divisions, collecting belts like they're infinity stones. So, does that mean that Aileen Pereira possesses every physical talent that her brother Alex Pereira does? No, but they do fight very similar. It's kind of cool watching them side by side. They have a very almost identical check left hook that seems to be really their money maker. And I think that, what is your opinion on siblings in the UFC? Because we've seen it a lot with the Pettis brothers and the Diaz brothers, but then we've seen like the Usman brothers, where it's obvious that one brother's really good, one brother maybe not so much. Obviously, you have a lot of the same physical gifts. You probably have the same gym. If your brother's a UFC champion, he's going to be a good influence. Does having a UFC champion sibling automatically make you a great MMA fighter, Coach Pat?
Well, they grew up in the same house, beat the shit out of each other most likely for most of their lives, so they're going to be tough either way, right? It's like the Hughes brothers. Matt Hughes, became a world champion, one of the arguably, obviously, the best ever, and his brother, while very tough, very good athlete, very good wrestler, and did fight in the UFC and did win, he just wasn't interested in continuing. I'm going back to the farm. I'm gonna live that life and build houses and farm and enjoy my life and not get punched in the head for a living. And that was just the way it went. But Mark Hughes was very tough and actually meaner than his brother.
No way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
well, that's pretty mean then. Yeah.
Yeah. So who
Fine.
are you picking in this one and why?
I'll just kind of, yeah. So I mean, I have to lean Eileen Pereira here. The line doesn't really know what to do, Pat. It opened up at minus 500. It's minus 490 now. I think you're fine probably throwing her in a parlay, but just remember she's only 2-2 in MMA. She's not lighting the world on fire, and has mostly done like these karate combat fights where you can't take her down. So wrestling will always be a big question mark as it is with her brother, but give me Eileen Pereira here. Just don't go crazy on it.
All right. I'll agree with you unless the fight ends up on the ground. Then there's a
Yeah,
problem.
which it could.
All right. Let's go to David McGoyan versus Morales. Morales 1-4 in the UFC, and McGoyan LFA 1-0. Of course, this is the MVP card, not the UFC. Morales 19-10 overall. McGoyan is 8-1, 5-0 in the KO department, 1-0 submissions. Not great competition coming up, and Morales has had less than less experience. Almost every time he fights, he seems to have people that have less experience than him. So, how do you break this down?
Yeah, well, the first few fights on this card, I had to do some deep dives and some research on, but I had to do deep dives and research for basically the entire UFC card this fucking week, so it's not that big of a difference. The UFC said we're just going to throw a bunch of people out there we found on the street because we don't want to
Yes.
compete with this MVP card. So I get it. Tread carefully on these first few MVP fights. I mean, you've been waiting months for this Netflix card. You've got this few $100 tucked away. I'm begging you, don't blow it all in these first few fights because they can be a little bit sketchy. McGoyan should win here, but he hasn't done a lot to make us think he's that much better than Albert Morales. His line has gone up 100 points. He opened up at minus 520, a decent favorite. He's now minus 620. That gives me a little bit of hope. You can put him in some parlays, but please don't make your entire night depend on this fight, or you could suddenly have no more money to bet on Ronda Rousey and Mike Perry and Nate Diaz and Francis Ngannou. McGoyan's
Sure.
the pick, but I'm telling you, and Pat and I have talked about this on these Bellator type cards that have some older aging fighters coming out of retirement, that have some people you haven't heard of. Just be careful. Bet
There you go.
responsibly.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to Moraes against Incuda. 11-0 versus 21-6 overall. Break these guys down for us. There's a little bit of information on them, obviously, and which person's favored. Where's the crowd in the line moving?
So your favorite is going to be, and I'll give you some quick background on this fight real quick. Adriano Moraes was initially fighting Mohamed Mokaev, and I had a lot more interest in this fight because you had Mokaev, who was still undefeated and was cut from
Yeah.
the UFC not for not for losing fights, because he didn't lose fights, Pat. He was just a pain in the ass to deal with, and wrestling heavy style wasn't a
Not
big
overly
deal for a
exciting.
real guy. Exactly. But Mokaev did something where they're not going to let him in the country. So you get Fumi Nukta. I'm a little surprised that Nukta is the favorite here. Let's remember, Pat, who's the only person to finish Demetrius Johnson in MMA? It was Marias over in the
Hmm.
welcome to one FC fight for Demetrius Johnson. So Adriano Marias, that's obviously a sterling win there. Nukta is the favorite here. So Nukta is about minus 190, and his line has essentially stayed the same.
Does that
So
surprise you?
it does, but the fact that people are betting this card, I would say more people are betting this card than the UFC card. So if the line is steady, that makes me like Nukta, because Marias will always have that Demetrius Johnson knockout, wear it like a trophy. He'll always
Sure.
have respect because of that. And I dove into Nukta a little bit, and I think he's an under the radar guy. Where
Yeah,
after the Netflix card tomorrow, you'll know who Nukta is. That is my prediction.
I agree with you, and I think Nukta wins 11-0. See if he goes to 12-0 tomorrow. All right, Fazil versus Babian, 6-1 versus 9-1. I think the numbers probably leaning a little towards Fazil, right?
They are, but they're leaning away the longer
Moving
we
away.
go.
Okay.
Fazil opens up at minus 430 on FanDuel Sportsbook, Pat. He's now minus 330. That's kind of the theme we're going to see on this card, is as stacked as the maybe top six fights are, we have to wade through a few unknowns here. I think they opened up Fazil a little bit too heavy, and that's why his line has come back. I guess if you give me $100, I would bet the very tempting underdog here at Fabian plus 275, just basically quadruple my money. But just that's a math thing. I'm going to lean the underdog here. Would anything shock me? No.
Based on the math, you're leaning
Yeah,
just the
and
opportunity
also,
again to make
and, al-
money.
and also resumes, and I know you'll get into that in a second, but when I look at Namo Fazil and Jake Babian's resumes, I don't really understand why Fazil opened up as a minus 430 favorite. That's a big freaking favorite, and I think that the sports bettors have corrected it with lowering the Fazil line a little bit. I think that Babian was a little bit disrespected when this line first came out.
Well, and Babian, I mean, what would you say as far as quality of opponents? Because with 6-1 and 9-1 records, it's not like they've gone deep on absolute hammers in their careers either. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. When I'm undecided, I look at the metrics on quality of opponents a lot of times, and who's had the tougher road. I lean towards, but with 10 and 7 fights, it's. I think Fazil maybe had a little tougher road.
Yeah, yeah. Pat, what do you say we get into a fun fight and we we start having some fun with this Netflix card, because the next fight gets my juices going.
All right, we're going to Santos and Despain.
Woo!
Rebellious versus Junior Dos Santos. Yeah, Junior Dos Santos being the underdog on this one, and against a guy that's 5-2, bro. What gives?
Yeah, and not only a guy that's 5-2, a guy who possibly has the worst wrestling in all of MMA. And it's the guy can throw hammers, and we've talked about Karate Combat a lot lately. Karate Combat picked him up after his wrestling got exposed in the UFC, so he's had no reason to really work on his wrestling. Junior Dos Santos has nothing to lose here. And if you're Junior Dos Santos, who has always been a pretty high cage IQ guy, you're wrestling. You're wrestling all day here, Pat. Or are you going out on your shield and banging with one of the scariest hitters in MMA right now?
But a guy with a 5-2 record, how can we call him the scariest? Now he's got some brutal knockouts, but does that qualify him as one of the scariest guys? I just don't think it does.
Yeah, we can get a little debate going here. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. Hats off to MVP. I think maybe the biggest mistake they made on this card was not doing Rebellis versus Ngannou. Let's just get two thumpers in there, and someone's going out in the first round. And I think Ngannou, even though he has shown fantastic wrestling. He out wrestled Cyril Gahn. Where did that come from? The guy's just a freak. He can do anything. He can box with Tyson Fury. He's incredible. I think he's one of the only motherfuckers who would be crazy enough to stand with Robellis. But instead, we get Robellis Jr. Dos Santos. I don't know. I mean,
So you
Robellis.
think they made a mistake? They made a mistake in the matchups.
I think Robellis versus Ngannou would have been awesome, and I think that Ngannou would have stood with him. I think Ngannou is not scared of anyone. I think Junior Dos Santos is aware of the Robellis power and will certainly try to wrestle, and that's why I think that we've seen the line go down here. Pat, check this out, buddy. This makes my goosebumps tingle. Robellos Despaigne opens up at minus 900 on FanDuel Sportsbook. He's minus 390 now. His
Right.
line has been cut by about 60%. That tells me bettors are all over this, thinking that, I mean, it's going to be a roller coaster. Maybe we'll see Junior Dos Santos get popped, and then they're on the ground, and all of a sudden he's on top, and he stays on top, and he chokes Despaigne out, or Despaigne gets tired after 2 minutes, which he always does, and then the takedowns are easier and easier. That's the path, man, but I don't know if I can trust 43 or whatever he is, years old, Junior Dos Santos, to do much, but the path to victory is there, man.
Yeah.
The path to quintupling your money with Junior Dos Santos plus 400, the path is there. We can see it.
Sure. Yeah. Good call. Good call. I'm going with Dos Santos. I think he's wise enough, has enough experience, and his coaches as well to look for those takedowns, set them up, and get Rebellis out of there. So that's where I'm going. All right. Let's go to Cross and Parnas. 22-4 against 17-4. 22-2 against 17-4. I'm just gonna, off a hunch, guess that Cross might not be favored.
Well, your hunch would be right here, Pat. We get our first massive favorite of the night with this Parnassi kid who has a decent record, maybe a little bit padded, but he looks to be a guy who MVP could really give him a name for himself. I think that they really are following the Bellator method. I wouldn't be surprised if Scott Coker's doing some behind the scenes consulting stuff or what here. This is right out of Scott Coker playbook, Pat. Let's get a few aging retired fighters. Let's have them kind of the senior tour of MMA. Let's get some Ken Shamrocks and some Kimbo Slices in there. But let's also have some Aaron Picos. This isn't just all old guys fighting each other. Let's have some prospects we develop. And yeah, this Parnassi kid, this is their Aaron Pico. That they want to make him into a star, and so they're giving him a guy he should demolish and then continue to build momentum. So Parnassi opened up at minus 600 and got bet out to minus 1450. So he
Wow,
is
1450 now.
yeah,
Okay, that's big.
that's big.
Okay, so he's a part of a parlay, obviously, as you said. Okay, all right. Moving on to now Linz versus Ngannou, the monster. I can only imagine what those numbers are for odds right now. How freaking blown up are these odds?
Pretty blown up, Pat. Ngannou opens up at minus 1600, which was already a pretty big freaking number. That means you would have to bet $1,600 and you would profit 100. So
Sure.
a lot of money to risk, but I mean, Ngannou's so good, man, and I think that we will look back on this 10 years from now and just wonder what if Francis Ngannou and Dana White hadn't butted heads from day one. Are we talking about Francis Ngannou as the greatest heavyweight ever? I mean, all he's done is win. All he's done is win. One little bump in the road where Stipe Miocic exposed some wrestling maybe 7, 8 years ago. What
Yeah.
did he do? He became a power wrestler. The guy can do everything. Felipe Lins, he did win $1 million on World Series of Fighting. That was a somewhat watered down roster. World Series of Fighting eventually became PFL. Credit to him. He came to the UFC, was about a 500 UFC fighter. He's not Ngannou's level. Ngannou should be able to do whatever he wants. I don't see any reason to back Lins here.
What are Lenz's odds?
Lins is plus 830.
Plus 830. So you're saying there's a chance.
I would much rather bet Junior Dos Santos at plus 400. Give me a bet I actually have a shot to win.
All right. So, yeah, leaning pretty heavily towards Ngannou, as everyone, the entire world is obviously leaning towards Ngannou. So that's a pretty safe parlay bet. All right, moving on to Nate Diaz. I find this fight actually very entertaining, very interesting between Nate Diaz and Mike Perry. These guys have, you know, Perry's done really well in bare knuckle. Perry's showing that he's made a comeback. Obviously, I think he's quit drinking. He's sober. He's doing quite well and looking pretty good. I think he lost his last bare knuckle fight, but besides that, man, he actually looks pretty fit.
He does, Pat. So I have a quick, maybe a devil's advocate, maybe a crazy conspiracy theory here, and you tell me if I'm going in the right direction or not. So Nate Diaz is your favorite. He has opened up at minus. I'm sorry, Mike Perry is your favorite. Opened up at minus 210. He's now minus 215. So we're seeing Perry as a decent favorite and not a lot of movement, but we know that massive money is coming in on this fight. That means it's pretty much split. The money's coming in on Perry. Money's also coming in on Diaz. Perry scares me as a minus 200 favorite, and here's why. Perry had an amazing run early in the UFC. He surprised a lot of people. Just tough, gritty, Detroit gangster, can thump like a mother effer. But the wrestling gets exposed later in his career. Guys who aren't even wrestlers like Daniel Rodriguez are taking him down at will. And Perry didn't get cut by the UFC. He had the opportunity. He was just done with the wrestling. And so he goes to bare knuckle where he can just be Mike Perry. He can just stand and bang. And so if Perry's wrestling was failing him, he goes to bare knuckle. The wrestling hasn't been fixed. If anything, it's gotten worse. Nate Diaz can do it all. Nate Diaz wants to put on a show for the fans. He also wants to win. And so I think Nate Diaz, similar to Dos Santos, has a very good path to victory here as a plus 150 dog. The issue is, it's the first MVP card ever. These guys want to put on shows. I guarantee you there's bonuses flying all around here. Are you going for a bonus or are you going for a win? And I think that's a very real question, both with Dos Santos and with Diaz here. Do you take the easy path or do you be a big tough man and stand and bang? What do you think?
Yeah, that's the thing. And here's what I will say. In the Diaz boxing match with Paul, you remember watching that fight?
Both guys fought Paul, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing with Diaz is normally where his endurance comes through, it didn't in that fight. He was the one that got tired against the younger, bigger Paul, obviously. Mm-hmm. I see Mike Perry being bigger physically. He's going to be bigger at fight time. He's going to be heavier. He's going to be stronger, which Diaz has dealt with before. I don't know if Diaz has been really working his endurance like he used to, where they were doing the triathlons, he and his brother, and then the triathlons that were dirt bikes, the Xterra events, things like that. I mean, those guys were incredible cardio machines, and I just don't think that's the case anymore. I think if Diaz doesn't get it done early on the ground, and I don't know if he's strong enough to take Perry down initially. Perry's not a great wrestler, as you pointed out, but Perry is strong. He's a strong guy, and Diaz is not a D1 college wrestler. He's just not, right? I mean, when he took Conor McGregor down, Conor McGregor was getting pounded and getting lit up and got tired and basically almost pulled guard to a certain extent, right? Yeah. So it's a tough. It goes both ways. It's a double-edged sword in this one. I just lean just slightly towards Mike Perry in this fight. I think he
Yeah.
just by a hair, I
Yep.
think wins the fight. So that's kind of where I'm at.
You know what, Coach? I think that's one of the best back and forths we've ever had on this show, and I would love to see more of this. And I no hyperbole here at all. For one of the first times, you've talked me off a bet, and I think you brought up something huge that the light bulb kind of went on in my head. Yes, the wrestling does concern me, but at least Mike Perry's been fighting. Mike Perry gets in that bare knuckle ring every few goddamn months, and he goes to war.
He
What has
does, yeah.
Diaz been doing? Diaz has been smoking weed and getting in fights at vegan restaurants. I mean, the Diaz hasn't been fighting, brother. You've
Right,
got,
right.
hey, let's go, Pat. I love it. You make a great point. I am much more confident betting Perry now, just for the fact. And what have we seen? We saw Nate Diaz. His last fight in the UFC was Tony Ferguson a few years ago. Both guys completely gassed out. And then, yeah, boxing, it's just obvious that Nate Diaz will always be a warrior, and I don't think he's just showing up off the couch. But Perry just seems to be more fight ready, and I think that's a fantastic point, and I agree with you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you've talked me off the ledge on many occasions. So let's hope we're correct. Otherwise, we're going to
Yeah,
laugh at each other next
yeah,
week.
yeah, yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to the main event: Ronda Rousey against Gina Carano. Ronda Rousey 12-2 overall. Gina Carano 7-1. Gina Carano been well, 2009 since her last fight, and 2016, a decade for Rousey. That's a long time. I mean, it's a long time between fights. Rousey, I think overall, obviously the better athlete. She's a judoka of world class skill. Did hold the UFC title. Is stronger, probably physically stronger. Carano looks more polished with her striking, but honestly, can Gina Carano stop a Ronda Rousey throw once she gets a hold of her? I don't know if I'm confident in that. Interesting matchup. Where are the odds at right now for these two ladies?
Good question, Pat. Ronda Rousey, the pioneer of women's MMA, the reason we even really have women's MMA, at least at the level it's at. Open up at minus 500 on Caesar Sportsbook. She's minus 600. So a little respect for the former world champion here against Gina Carano.
And so,
This fight, man, it's just, I mean, I think that Ronda should be able to. I think there's a good chance we see old school Ronda here because what have you done, Ronda? She did the WWE thing, but has completely stayed away from MMA, and it wasn't for lack of trying. It's no secret Dana White and company, Hunter Campbell, have offered her millions upon millions upon millions to come back to the UFC. I'm not sure why she hates Hunter Campbell so much. He's offered her a lot of money, but anyway, I think Ronda Rousey's been sitting around saying, you know what? They're right. When they said that I kind of fell in love with being a power striker, they're right. I was one of the best grapplers, one of the best judokas in the world. And I was able to go into MMA and really use that as an absolute weapon to cut through the division and make it look easy. You know, when Ronda Rousey was at her best, look at the Alexis Davis fight. In about 30 seconds, Pat, she combined striking, judo, and jiu-jitsu to finish Alexis Davis. It was the most impressive
yeah, it
performance
was pretty
of a man
brutal.
or woman that I have ever seen in the UFC. And then her dipshit coach got her to think that she was Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson, and really derailed her career. She is not with Edmund Tarvarian anymore, thank God. She is older, but I think that we see Ronda Rousey go straight to the judo, go straight to the wrestling, and really wipe the floor with Gina Carano. And it's kind of a what could have been if she just would have stuck to what she was good at in the UFC.
Well, and I feel Rousey's stronger. She's a better athlete, more experienced, world class judo, all those things. Gina Carano's going to have to move and move a lot to stay on her feet. I don't know if she gets that done for that many rounds, obviously. So I lean toward Ronda Rousey winning the fight, and there you have it. We
There you
are
have
at the end of the card, and it's a big MMA weekend.
it. Yep.
And so anything else you'd like to talk about as far as any of the cards, the MVP card, Anything you'd like to talk about in the news? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did a fantastic job. At least you can't complain much for your first card ever. Yes, the first few fights were a little bit tough to get through, but once you get to about the last 6 fights of the card, even 7 fights, the very, very good, very entertaining, kind of a fan's dream come true. You think that they missed anybody on this card, Pat? Is there any great that's sitting at home? You think you wish they would have got them on this MVP initial card?
I'm sitting at home, but they don't have the Geritol division, so it's okay. It's
Who,
okay.
who would you fight? Would we see the Carlos Newton grudge match? Who would you want to fight on this card?
I I have no desire to fight. I have no desire to fight. I'm done fighting. I've enjoyed myself. I'm enjoying getting healthy, doing sprints out in the driveway, out here on the farm, and getting workouts in and all that good stuff. I'm enjoying it. So, no, I mean they're I'm sure going to be resurrecting some careers here and there to put big names, out there. But it comes down to, while you do that, building the stars, finding the talent before the UFC finds them, and signing them to long contract deals. And you got to have somebody with an eye for real talent and people that are going to last in the sport. And I don't know if they necessarily have that. If they have Coker behind the scenes doing work for them, certainly he's got the experience, but it remains to be seen. But I wish them luck, and I hope they do quite well. So that's, I guess, about it for us this week. We've done the bonus show for the MVP card, the UFC
We
card. I
got
hope
a couple
everybody.
questions in chat here, brother. Let me
Okay.
see. All right. Mr. Chauvin, let me read this, make sure I'm not saying something terrible. Raul Super TV just said Pat. So Raul's happy to see
Oh,
you.
Raul, my boy, man.
Okay,
Raul,
there
good
you
man.
go.
Good man. So
And Jurston, who I've seen before, says, if you were with Clark Griswold, how would you help him win his money back in Las Vegas Vacation? That may be the best chat question we have had yet. And I hope to utilize this live chat more for moments like this.
well, and we have an answer for that actually. You want to go hit a 7-Eleven on the outskirts of town with make sure that you're masked and you wear gloves, of course, and then take that money and go back to the casino and put it all on black. Put
Yeah.
it all on black and roll the dice, baby. Throw the ball in there and get your money back.
And I'll go one step further. If black hits and you have turned your gas station robbery winnings, you have doubled them, go quintuple them and put it all on Junior Dos Freaking Santos to take down the hype job Robelis Despaigne. One takedown and this fight's over, Pat. And at
This is a
plus
soundbite. I want this to be a soundbite, because if Dos Santos loses, dude, this is going to be beautiful for me.
all publicity is good
Beautiful
publicity.
for me.
And
No.
we are going to win Clark Griswold his money back. One of my favorite movies. As a professional gambler, it's so true. Clark Griswold has lost everything, and Cousin Eddie's driving him freaking crazy. And Clark says to Eddie, Eddie, I need to be alone for a little bit. And Cousin Eddie goes, okay, you want me to go with you? So that is professional betting in a nutshell. That is, dude, Jerstens, you are my hero. If you could comment live every week, the show will be better.
Yes.
Pat, shout out to our fans, man. We have seen the views tick up, the subscribers tick up. We hit 300 subscribers, I think, yesterday. So
Yeah, beautiful.
much
Beautiful.
more
It's
to
growing.
come. We're gunning for 1,000. Once we hit 1,000, we can start making more money. So we will push that. But just shout out to our fans.
Oh, this is going big. We've had some videos go big,
yeah.
so we're having fun, bud, and we're the best in the business. We really are.
Yes, sir.
We're batting pretty high. So, all right, for Joshua Chauvin, my co-host, I'm Pat Militich, saying good luck to everybody this weekend, and make sure you do your own research. Don't just listen to us. Everybody have a